Welcome to part 2 of upgrading your Harbor Freight sandblaster. In the first video, I basically brought everybody up to speed of how far I went with my upgrades, which was my light, a LED light, and the dust collector. What I want to do now is what I feel is the most important upgrade, and that is the metering valve. Most all the videos I've seen of the guys doing this, they used a regular pipe, plumbing, steel pipe. I chose to do Schedule 40, PVC. How I understand this is supposed to work. The media falls down out of the hopper, straight down into the elbow, and this becomes a mixing chamber, the T, where air and media mixes. The air helps it flow through the hose and up to the gun. Unlike the floor model, this does not have an opening to let the grit out. There's this plastic piece of plumbing, whatever you want to call it. It's a hole that goes 90 degrees. I'm going to plug that up. I need to put a 2-inch hole in here to start running all of my plumbing. Because this is a bench model and I don't have a flap up here on the hopper, and I don't want to put a plug on the end. I want this nice smooth 90 degree. I decided to go with a union here that I could just take apart, drop all this, and my media will empty. Well, that's what my idea is anyway. So I have to measure so I can cut these pieces of 1 1/4 inch PVC to the right length to fit all these. One of my other problems is I have a 2-inch hole in my hopper. I need to make 2 like washer nuts to lock onto here to secure this to the hopper. That's going to be a little turning project. Okay, let's get to the real work. First thing I'm going to do is find an approximate middle in this thing. I'm just going to hold my scale across here and just put a mark and then drill. That should actually be close enough. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go through there with about a 1/8 drill. What I want to do is get a 1/4 inch hole in there so that my hole saw has something to follow. 1/4 inch drill. It's in there. It's a 2-inch hole saw. Put a little cutting oil on here. I don't know if that's going to help or hinder it. I don't imagine this is going to be very easy. It's part of the way through. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I need to deburr all this, clean it up, and then see how my fitting's going to work. This is the piece I wanted to go in there. It measures 1 inch, 980 thousandths across the heaviest part. There's not much of a shoulder on here either to tighten this down. What I thought is I bought this cap. It's the only part I didn't have around here. And it has these threads in it. What I was going to do is use part of this. I was going to cut it off in the lathe. I was going to make 2 pieces. One of them, I was going to screw all the way onto here and use that as a shoulder. And the other piece as my nut to hold this in place. Let's go do that. Okay. I went to the lathe and I took that end cap and I made a whole video on how I did this. So you could watch that. I called it turning PVC on the mini lathe. Anyway, I made that nut washer. It created a shoulder here that I could put up against here. That end cap only made one of those because it was a tapered thread. I got another end cap and I made another one to go on here. And that should work. Put this one on here, put the end cap from the other side, and that should work. But before I can go any further with putting this whole thing together, I need to patch this hole, cover it. I wanted to make a 2-piece plug that I could screw together. I need to do that in the lathe. Let's go do that. Okay, I'm back from the lathe and I've made my plug. I made a plug that will fill that hole and tighten on with this special washer. Let me show you what that looks like close up. Okay, let me get that set up. We'll put this part in there and then we'll continue on with this project. Let's do that. Okay, this is the valve. It's not been cemented together yet. I placed it like this so you can see what it's going to look like because it'll be hard to see once it's finished because it's going down inside my compressor cabinet. Let me show you what it looks like down inside here. In there is my air compressor back there. It's just a small Harbor Freight 10-gallon. Then there's my dust collector here. And an old shop vac, wet dry vac. That I've tried all this out, it all works, but I haven't tried it with the metering valve. What I have to do next, I have to take my 4-inch hole saw here and drill a hole through the top of this thing so all of this can go through. All the holes are drilled through the cabinet. The PVC is cemented and I'm ready to run some hose. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. The metering valve. you have to run some hose from here to the gun. I'm going to have to adjust this short nipple to fit into my hose. Let me show you the hose that I'm using. There's some pretty heavy hose that I had laying around. It is 20 millimeters. What is that? 787, I think, in inches. And that's going through this hole. This hole was already in there. This hole I had to put in, and that is for my air line that goes to the gun. Now I'm going to use the regular gun that came with it. From this heavy-duty hose that's coming from the metering valve, I'm going to run this through the cabinet, and it's eventually going to hook up with the original hose. But I need to make a special adapter that goes from 20 millimeters to 12 millimeters. That's 787 thousandths to 472 thousandths. I don't have any brass, but I do have some Delrin, which will be fine. I need to get over to the lathe again, and I think this will be the last time. And I'll be ready to put this whole thing back together. Let's do that. All right, I'm back from the lathe again, and I have made my adapters that goes from this 12 millimeter. I need to put a hose clamp on here, and it goes into here. And I also adjusted my short nipple that goes on here and goes in the other end of this black hose. Okay, all I have to do is spin this around, put my metering valve on underneath, bring these hoses up, and I'll be ready to fill things up and see how it works. Let's do that. Okay, everything's done. Hoses are connected, vacuum connected, air compressors connected. The metering valve seems to work. Let me show you some quick sandblasting. I really didn't have anything to blast, and I have really fine grit media in there, but it shows you how much stuff is coming out. I'll show you some of that. Here, let's do that. All right, I hope you got something out of that. I hope you were able to see the amount of blasting material that was coming out of that gun. It improved this 200%. Okay, this thing is all finished. With it all hooked up now, I could relax a little bit, get into some of my other videos. But while I was doing this upgrade, I also made a few machining videos when I had to make the reducer out of Delrin, and when I worked out with the PVC, the connection for underneath here. There was something else I had to do, but I made those into separate videos. I think you'll like them. But that brings this video to a wrap, but there will be more upgrades to the Harbor Freight Sandblaster. Look for it. But until then, enjoy.